Welcome, ghosts, back to Bullet Catcher Gaming. This is the RECON report. This is episode 3, and this is the Christmas special. If you're listening to this, Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy holidays. I'm joined once again by Sandy, as usual, and we also have Zimmy. I won't introduce Zimmy. I'm going to let Zimmy introduce himself in case you don't know who Zimmy is. Hopefully, if you're in the community, you definitely know who Zimmy is and you should check him out. But I'm going to let him give his own little intro. We are going to be talking about crossovers. Now, you might say, what's that got to do with Christmas? Well, you know, if we were to get a new game, maybe there'd be a Christmas event. You get them on Grand Theft Auto and other types of games. Fortnite and things like that. I know they're very different, but you know, I thought we would have a look at crossovers in general. What do people want from a crossover? What do they definitely never want included? What could be done to make them more interesting? The types of things that work, don't work, that kind of stuff. So, like I said, happy Christmas, everybody. Zimmy, give yourself a little intro. Just tell people who you are.
Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Zimmy KO, gamertag, YouTube. I do a bunch of cool stuff for the community. Try to, do everything I possibly can to keep the Ghost Recon spirit alive, so to say. Ghost Recon's getting older, and everybody's, patiently waiting for this next game to be announced, and, we're not sure if it's even coming to begin with, so I do a bunch of cool stuff like cinematic videos on YouTube, and I run some of the Facebook pages. One of the bigger ones is the Elite's Facebook page, and then that's me. I was in active duty for 9 years, National Guard for 9 years, so a little over 18 years. But thanks, man.
Thank you again for your service as well. And if anyone is unaware, obviously Sandy is still in active service. So thank you, Sandy, as well for, hopefully keeping the world a safer place. And it's all a bit weird. I tell you what, just completely off topic, just really quickly. I just want to bring this one thing up. We're only going to cover this for a couple of minutes, but I'm just really interested about this. So if anyone knows anything at the moment or has watched YouTube, the news, whatever, and this whole weird thing going on with drones, which some of the reporting is quite good and some of it's piss poor. So, because it keeps saying that don't get me wrong, there's been loads in New Jersey and areas like that, but it started in the UK over a lot of the American air bases. And that was what was being reported first, but I don't know how much American media picked up on that or not. It was definitely started here and then moved over to Jersey and is still carried on here as well. Do you think, just interestingly, because of all this drone stuff, do you reckon it would make anyone in the community, or does it make you guys feel any differently about all of the drone tech in Breakpoint? Because obviously some people were fine with the drones, other people hated the drones. And I know it goes a bit further with drone tanks and things, but does it just change anyone's opinion of how Breakpoint, used the drones and stuff? Because it's not like we didn't know there weren't drones, but the fact that the sheer numbers of them, they're not explaining what on earth is going on. Just does anyone have an opinion on that? I just find it kind of intriguing whether anyone.
I don't think necessarily that what's going on in America has changed my mind, but certainly what's going on in Eastern Europe has changed my mind when it comes to drone warfare. Like 2019, looking at Breakpoint, seemed far too futuristic. Don't get me wrong, some of the things I had issues with the drones were maybe to do with their speed and unlimited ammo. But, fast forward, 5 years, drone warfare is where it seems to be heading at the minute. It's a new phase of warfare, and actually I think Breakpoint was possibly a bit before its mark.
I agree with that. Yeah, I think that's definitely something to look at. I just really wondered what I don't know. I just wondered because as soon as I kept seeing it over and over and over again on YouTube and stuff like that, it just kept making me think about Breakpoint all the time. And I was someone who has never been a big fan of the drones. And don't get me wrong, it hasn't made me want to go into the game and go, oh, I love drones now. It's not that. It's just, I suppose it just made me think about them so much more. It's just fascinating that the Pentagon actually came out the other day, didn't they, and said it's Father Christmas, and I get there's some irony, but I think a lot of people were really angry when they said that. It's so weird, just like what on earth's going on. There's so many you hear about, sniffing out nuclear weapons and they're chasing down orbs. It's just so weird. I just can't believe it. And then the other day they went, oh no, they're passenger planes. And it's like, well, they're definitely not passenger planes. Like you can see on some of this footage, they're just hovering there and not moving. But anyway, this isn't a discussion about the drones. I just wanted to ask, just to see if you guys had an opinion on the drones in general and Breakpoint. Okay, but let's get on to crossovers then. So let's imagine for a second that we have an announcement of a new game, which, according to the leaks, it's coming. And I presume, games take a long time. So I presume that, I always thought it would probably take, I don't know, 5 years plus or whatever. So, maybe we'll hear something soon. But how do you think, let's look at it like this. What do you think the community want from a crossover? Because I think there's no way we don't get a crossover. I think it happens, whether it be smaller kind of events. I'm wondering if they will take a route a bit more like Call of Duty take regards to sometimes doing kind of smaller scale events. I mean, Fortnite, I know it's a very different game, but I'm just looking at the way it's run. They do big events and then they do small ones, and like we don't know what they would do. But what kind of crossovers would be acceptable? What kind of characters, for example, if from movies, if they decide to do a movie crossover, which they've done with, say, the Terminator and Predator, what are people going to go, no, I'm okay with that. I'll accept that. I would happily have a skin of, say, this character in the game. I would quite like this. I'd like a mission based around this. Whether it be like some kind of live event like they did with the Rainbow Six event. How do you think is the best way, just as an overall to start with, what's the best way for them to implement this kind of going forward? What do you guys think?
Well, I've got, go ahead.
I'll let you go first, Jimmy.
Okay, well, I think the best way to implement crossovers is to do kind of a variety. So they had the Terminator, they had the Predator, but I think if you add some realistic stuff and then maybe some, sci-fi type adventures to give it more of an arcade feel, to kind of reach more of the community, and even like those serious milsim guys that play, sometimes they get tired of it and they want to just kind of enjoy just the running and gunning and kind of get that out of their system. So I think the variety of different ways that you could implement crossovers, like, instead of using Predator or a sci-fi, you could implement something like, Lone Survivor. Or on the sci-fi side, you could find another movie like Predator or maybe Alien, something like that. Implement that into another crossover.
How do you think people would react to, because the Predator's kind of unusual. I think they did such a good job with the aesthetic, using the real music. We hadn't really had a Predator game, so I think there was an element of that to it, that people are like, oh, cool, it's the Predator. Everyone loves, especially the first Predator. I mean, try and find a dude, especially probably our age and stuff like that, who doesn't love the Predator. It's going to be tough to find one. But so we hadn't really had that. And I think there was definitely a part of that played into it. It was a good setting. It worked in Wildlands. It was a fun mission. It was challenging. There were different ways to approach it. I genuinely really miss it. I would like to go back and play it again. I love that mission. But what do you think if they suddenly go, okay, we're doing an Aliens crossover? How do you think that would work? So let's just put for example, let's say that the next game, and I'm not saying this is, but I'm just saying we're just guesswork, right? So I know that the leaks have said like Southeast Asia, but that's just a leak, right? So let's say that's not true for a second, and it's set in the Middle East, right? How do you implement an aliens crossover in the Middle East so it fits within the world? Like, I think that's a tough sell. It wouldn't for me. They're not juxtaposed well with each other. If you know what I mean, not without them flying out into space or something, which I really don't want to see.
There's one thing you've got to take in though, and I think it's always critical. Remember when you talk about the Predator versus Terminator. The Predator was just a nice add-on mission at the end. It had nothing to do with the main game. It was just something nice and different. Terminator was baked into the part of the campaign, and it just felt too forced, in my opinion.
Do you know what I did like about the Terminator? And this is the bit that I did enjoy. I didn't think the missions were particularly great. They were fine for what they were. They were all right. I did like the world parameter for the Terminator. When you just wanted to jump on and do something different, to turn the world parameters on and drive around and just see like multiple Terminators about everywhere. What was frustrating about that though was that you couldn't kill the fuckers without that weapon. That annoyed me then, because then it was like, well, okay, it's not even like you can just go, let's do some normal missions and let's see how the Terminators mess it all up for us. Because you couldn't do that, because you had to take that weapon. That annoyed me. You should have been able to destroy them with normal weapons as well. But I did like the world parameter. I liked the world parameter with the gas as well. Like I enjoy. I always say, I've said it a million times before, more options is better. Because if you don't want them on, don't turn them on. But if you just want to do something different, and it helps games, the longevity of a game will be added to the more options you have. You give more ways for people to play, people will stick around longer. I think for me, if I was making a Ghost Recon game, I would be making it based around military authenticity all the way, with like treat the ghosts like they are completely real, and there are units in the world very, very similar. Treat them like that. Make sure you've got real operators that are helping you build the game. And then once that bit's done, then I start looking at what would casual fans want, what kind of crossovers would work, how to build upon the game to bring in a bigger audience, because obviously you want a bigger audience because you want to secure finances so you can make another one. But all of those options are available to turn off and turn on. So then anyone who wants the straightforward military experience has it, and it's not impeded. Like you just said, Sandy, I don't want Terminators in my normal military experience game. But if I want to go into a secondary option and turn them on and they're there and you want to have a bit of fun, I'm not against that at all. Because I think it helps bring in more casual players into a very, let's be honest, competitive. And especially if the rumors are saying it's first person, that is a very, very competitive market. So the more options, the better. But let's have a look at.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go for
it. Can I quickly just suggest something that we probably don't want?
Yeah, go for it.
Zombies. I didn't want to see zombies at all. At all.
I can agree with that.
Keep it with COD.
I can agree with that. Just exactly. You don't need to bring in stuff from other games that they've implied, like Call of Duty. If they have zombies, you don't necessarily need to bring that into Ghost Recon. Maybe something different, like Alien versus Predator, and have those guys around, but not necessarily, bring stuff directly from other games that they've already implemented as crossover. So
Yeah, and we've already got zombie-based games, and obviously Call of Duty. When you say the word zombies now, most people think of Call of Duty before they think of even a movie. I think anymore. You might think of certain movies, 28 Days Later and things like that. But like, I think most people, especially gamers, will probably think of Call of Duty, and I think that's a. I don't. It just looks like a direct copy. There's plenty of other things that you could implement if you wanted to expand the world parameters. So they do, like I said, so they don't interrupt the flow of the main game, but they're separate options that you could use once you've done everything and you want to just put things in there. So let's look at, so obviously it being Ubisoft, right? So Ubisoft have got plenty of IPs. They have utilized the Rainbow Six IP numerous times. I mean, let's discuss. Do you think they were successful or not successful? But also, do you want to see it again? Some of the operators in Rainbow Six are very cool. I used to love that game a lot, and now it's just turned into to me, a completely different game. I don't enjoy that game anymore. I used to love it. Um, like obviously there's some good skins though that you could add to whatnot. I mean, I wouldn't have an option with random skins from some of the older operators just popping into a store or whatever. I don't have a problem with that. But I personally, I don't want to see Rainbow Six people in the game. Now, maybe Ubisoft have got, let's say they do it, and they've probably got statistics which may show that Rainbow Six players, go out in their millions to went out and bought Ghost Recon when they did it. I personally don't think that was true, but I don't know because I don't know the facts. But maybe that's why they would maybe do it again. But what about other crossovers as well in their own IP? I mean, the Division could cross over depending on how you did it. What do you think about Rainbow Six? Do you think it should? Do you want to see it again? Not want to see it again? What do you think?
I don't think
I
it
think
hurts
there
to
is.
keep it as an option. Oh, go ahead.
Go on, Zimmy.
You finish, Jimmy. I'll let you go.
I was just going to say that quite a few people use it. I mean, even today the game's getting pretty old, but a lot of the newer players and even some of the older ones still use the Rainbow Six characters. And like you said, I'm sure Rainbow Six players who play that game have bought Ghost Recon just to see what it's like in Ghost Recon. So I don't think it would hurt much to bring them back again as an option. So something that you don't necessarily have to deal with if you're not really interested. I mean, I think the sky's the limit as far as options, and the more that they implement, I think the better the game will be, and the more people you'll attract to the game. If you're able to modify the game with Rainbow Six characters, or changing the settings to play the way that you want for your preference, you'll play longer.
What was you going to say, Sandy?
And for me, I'm I'm in two minds with this, because I think if done right, and with the Rainbow Six characters, if we're being a military shooter, if you bring in Thatcher's fine, X-22 makes sense. You've got some guys that are JTF, Australian SAS. If you're bringing their characters in and it makes sense within the storyline and the setting, fine. But I don't necessarily want to see tier 1 officers and then an FBI person and then a GSG-9 police officer. That doesn't make sense to me. As for Splinter Cell, again, I think we've overdone that. If anything, if we're going to do, and I don't technically think it's crossover, but I would rather see them bring in events where we work with SEAL units, Delta Force, Ground Branch, ISA, maybe 22 SAS. I'd rather see crossovers like that, where it expands the lore within the Ghost Recon world, rather than just relying on Rainbow Six, just relying on Splinter Cell.
I was going to mention Splinter Cell next, actually, so it's interesting you just brought that up. I want to bring up a comment that Zimmy made when we were having a chat before we started this. So Zimmy obviously talked about the fact that what he would like to see would be, or I can't remember if it was Zimmy or you, Sandy, or both of you, about having teams that are from previous Ghost Recon games, or actually instead of bringing in characters like that, like from Rainbow Six and things like that, we have Ghost Recon teams that are made up. We actually have more Ghost teams. Concentrate on creating. Well, I was saying beforehand, concentrate on creating some new lore, create new characters, as opposed to just selling people skins and things from games that have already come before it. Splinter Cell, for example, I like the character, I like the games. I would prefer a new Splinter Cell game to go and play that. I feel like, and I've said this before and others have said it, I feel like that Ghost Recon always gets used to pull from other games. Where's the Rainbow? Where are the Ghost Recon characters in Rainbow Six? Where is the Ghost Recon characters in The Division? Where's the Ghost Recon character? Do you see what I mean? Whereas in Ghost Recon, it's like, let's put in Rainbow Six, let's put in Splinter Cell. Why can't you give us some new characters, whether they're from Delta or SEALs, whatever, or actual new Ghost teams? If you want to create new lore and keep a franchise going forward, you can't just keep picking back all the time. Yes, I want to see callbacks, but I want to see new teams of people that will come in and for a mission to help you, and then they have to go off and do something else, whatever. Like, create something new. That's what I'd really like to see. I mean, it's not so much kind of crossover, but I just think we've seen this already, and I would prefer to see something new. Like Zimmy, you hit on that point earlier about Lone Survivor and etc. What kind of movies outside of aliens? What about sticking to military? What do you think would work if what we've seen in the leaks is true? If they're going to go for like a kind of this gritty, realistic kind of dark tone in a first person set in like Southeast Asia, that kind of thing. So it's you get a picture in your mind there roughly of what that may be. What would work really well with that? I mean, it immediately makes me think of like Rambo. And I don't mean like First Blood. I mean like just the movie Rambo. Not the last one, but the one before. I thought it was just a fun, crazy action movie. I love that movie. That would work because he was in that setting. It was in that part of the world as well. So, like, what do you think would work? What operators or characters and things that would the community go? I'd be fine with them. I'd be fine with that character. I'd be fine with bringing in elements from that movie. What do you think, Zimmy, that we would be able to use, and the community would go, yeah, I'm okay with that?
I think a lot of it, the attraction for that would have to be based on something that the community can relate to. So when we talk about movies like Lone Survivor or like Land of Bad, that was a new one that had like massive Ghost Recon vibes that everybody was talking about. You start implementing characters from those movies, and people will really be like, "Oh yeah, this is going to be awesome." They're going to be so excited, and then it's all up to how you design the missions that those guys are, conducting, or it's all on the developers on how they want to implement the story and the missions around it. But once you get characters in there that the community can relate to from movies, that's where people get excited, and the better the movie, the more popular that movie, the better the response can be.
So what about, I'm going to throw out a couple of randoms here, right? And just want to see what people think. So what about, for example, if they had, say, they went, right, we're putting in a Chuck Norris skin. How do you think the community would react to that? For or against?
I think they would be for it.
Would the young generation even know who Chuck Norris is these days?
Oh, he's still a legend, though, right?
I mean, you're showing your age, Andy. You're showing your age.
But I didn't watch Chuck Norris movies when I was a kid. To be fair, I discovered them like later on, really, as more of an adult. I didn't actually watch those types of films when I was a kid. But like, do you think that would be? Do you think? Like, I'm trying to get. So, I would like to see, like, do you go down, and we know Call of Duty have done this. Like, do you do like a kind of do you take operators that people know, who are like, ex-operators, SEALs, or whatever they may be, that are like, there's obviously prominent YouTubers and people that are on YouTube, and we know about them. That there's in the UK, and I know in Australia, I don't know if they have it in the States, they have like the SAS show, which has got, funnily enough, mostly ex-SBS operators on it, but it was weird. But that's
Yeah, they've
those
got in
sort of
America
things.
as well.
Yeah, they're very well known, a lot of these people. Do you go after people like that? Would people want to see them as operators in a game? Or would you go, no, let's not do that. Let's instead have, like you just said, I don't know, like let's have a couple of the characters from, the 13 Hours in Benghazi. Like, should we put some of their skins in? Do we approach? What do you think people would want? Or do you think you go with a mix of all of it?
So for me, I think slightly different take in it. I think for 13 Hours in Benghazi, for example, I think we take for the storyline and the story arc, but not necessarily the characters. I think you build a mission or run that storyline for your characters. I'd prefer it to be you still build your own character, but I wouldn't be opposed to see maybe, some maybe the famous gun tubers or ex special forces guys on YouTube, maybe later on being added in as skins or skin packs more specifically, so you can split them down and use it in different ways.
So kind of like what Call of Duty have done in the past, where they've taken a real world event and then put their own characters in it. Because that's
Yeah,
happened before in Call of Duty, isn't it? They've taken a real world event, something that happened, or taken directly from a movie, and instead, removed the characters and put their characters in.
yeah,
So
I'd much
yeah,
prefer that.
I get that, because I think it works, because I think they know people are already invested in that story, that movie, or that book, whatever it is that it's taken from. Interestingly enough, I wonder if they do look at books, because obviously there's a lot of fantastic military books out there, especially tier one kind of books. That I wonder if but maybe people don't. Maybe they don't think it would appeal as much, because it's not so visual.
Translate.
Yeah, it's not been visualized as such. Like, yes, it's very visual.
Yeah,
I'd say arguably it's just as visual when you read it, but maybe they think more people would have seen Black Hawk Down, for example, than read the book of Black Hawk Down. I'd say the book, don't get me wrong, Black Hawk Down's my favorite movie of all time, but the book is still better. The book is superior, and always, of course, it will be, because it's the movie plus a lot more. And you get
yeah,
all the characters. You don't get the characters who have been written out and their lines given to somebody else. And I totally get why that gets done, obviously, because you've got to push all this information to a short space of time. I'd love a Black Hawk Down kind of crossover, but obviously it wouldn't work time frame wise. But you can easily, and it's been done already, where you could have in a new story, you could have exactly the same thing happen, but just modern day in a different country. And I think that's what you're getting at. You
yeah,
can use these key elements and change them, if you know what I mean.
yeah.
Yeah. So
That's what
to
I would
make it
prefer.
relatable, a lot of people will, when they watch a movie like, well, what did I say? Land of Bad. It gives off Ghost Recon vibes. Well, when you're playing a game and you go through an experience similar to like Black Hawk Down, where a helicopter crashes right in front of you and you've got enemies fighting and you got your friendlies nearby, like that gives off Black Hawk Down vibes. So when you relate the gameplay to a movie in that sort of way, people will remember that movie, and that they might immerse themselves a little bit more, to improve their experience.
No, I agree. Are there any other IPs that you think that Ubisoft could use that they own that maybe could work? I mean, obviously, we've mentioned the two obvious ones being Splinter Cell and Rainbow Six. Well, what about like the Division? Or do you think that's too far away from the kind of gritty realism that it appears they might be going for?
I'll tell you what I'd like to see, and I think fans would be happy with this. I return the Hawks in some fashion as support.
I think people would
Because
like that.
Hawks hasn't been talked about in years.
No, I agree. I know. Well, that's been raised
I think
before.
that would be well
What was the?
received.
Can you remember what the? Do we have a question about that in the survey? We did, didn't we? One of the
We
surveys. We had a
probably
question.
did, to be fair.
We did. We definitely mentioned about like Hawks, and I think it got a pretty decent response if I remember rightly. I'd have to go back and have a look. That was. I don't think that was the last one. Maybe the one before. I can't remember. But yeah, that's interesting. So here's an interesting question. So, are there any other? Do you think Ubisoft would ever reach out and try and bring in a character? Because other games have done it. We've seen it. Reached out and used a character that doesn't belong to that company's list of IPs. So, do you think they would ever reach out and see if they could use a character outside of their own IPs, who's a computer character? Let's say Solid Snake, for example. Do you think they would do it, or do you think they'd try? Do you think it would work? See, I think most people wouldn't turn down Solid Snake. What do you think?
I mean, it's an interesting one because there's a Solid Snake game coming out. So, but then again, would they do it for the sake of your game, or are they just doing it for the marketing money for the next the next like Solid Snake game? That's where I think it would fall on its face.
See, but you could also look on the opposite to that. So yes, we've got the remake coming out, and obviously they're doing them in timeline order. So we're getting Metal Gear 3 first, aren't we? So I'm looking forward to that game. I think a lot of people were looking forward to that game. So let's say, for example, that game drops. This is all just speculation, right? Let's say that game drops in, I don't know, September 2025, right? So, and a lot of people enjoy it, and they're like, "Oh, it's so cool being Snake again. It's been too long." Da da da. And then I don't know, 2 months later, Ghost Recon drops in November 2025, right? Like I said, I'm not saying these are dates. This is all just me playing around here, right? So that drops 2 months afterwards, and then they add. So everyone's talking about Solid Snake. Now there might be some Ghost Recon fans that aren't really into that, maybe, and you drop it into the game somehow. Do you not think it would help? They would both help drive sales to each other. Like people would then go check out.
I think 100%. Yes,
yeah,
it would.
I think it would. Yeah, is it something you'd want to see, Timmy, or are there any other characters you think you'd want to see?
Not necessarily, because I personally, when I play Wildlands or Breakpoint, I just like to modify it to kind of fit my play style or what I want to do that day, and that changes over time. So, like when Terminator was out, sometimes that would happen. It's like, all right, well, I'm going to avoid using Terminator weapons so I can try to complete a mission with somebody like pinging me in the back, kind of like just, I don't know. It's weird. It's just, I want to be able to modify my game. So if they want to implement a crossover from, a character from another game in kind of like how you just described, I think the more the better, as long as we can turn that off. But I don't really have any characters in mind that I absolutely, have to see. Like Snake would be cool, but I don't think it's 100% necessary to have a very specific character. I don't have one in mind anyway, in my opinion.
I mean, they'd have to make sure that they were the right type of characters. I'm a big fan of the Uncharted games. I really enjoy those games, but I don't want Nathan Drake turning up. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't, just because, you could argue he could fit. Well, yeah, I suppose, but I suppose you could cram anything into anything if you really wanted to. But I don't mean like that. I mean, one of my favorite shooters of all time is still the SOCOM series. I think the SOCOM series is, was just ahead of its time so much. It's still so well regarded. Don't get me wrong, the characters weren't so fleshed out like in a lot of other games, but I kind of enjoyed that about it. You didn't know about whether, I think like Spectre, for example, you didn't know if he was married if I remember rightly. You didn't know anything about relationships. It was just like he was a tier 1 operator and his name was Spectre, and you listened to him, and it was all just about the tactics of the game. So you could put him in there. I don't think it would really, I don't know if it would have the same impact because there's not so much characterization, but I wouldn't be against it, but I'd prefer a new SOCOM game if I'm honest. But what was you going to say, Sandy?
I was going to say, given that Ubisoft has a theme, if you look at the crossover, like the non kind of Clancyverse crossovers, we've had 2 that have had Schwarzenegger. So, Commando.
I'd have a Commando
Keeps with the
skin.
theme, brings back Schwarzenegger. Everybody, it's consistency.
I wouldn't be against a Commando skin for definite. I don't know if any Commando missions. I don't know. It could be fun to. What was the bad guy's name? I've forgotten his name. What was the bad guy's name? No, John Matrix was him.
Matrix. John
No.
Matrix. Oh yeah, Connor Matrix. Bennett. His name is Bennett.
Bennett. Yeah, that's it. Bennett. Yeah, I'll let
off some steam, Bennett.
Let off some steam, Bennett. Yeah, that one. So but that would be fun. Like a little fun side mission where he's been involved. You just make it these days, and it's him, and he looks like him, and he's got that stupid tash, and he's even wearing the. Like, I don't think it's out of the realms of things like that. I'd be all right with it.
If you got to go down that route, what would be really fun to do with that is have a small side mission on a small island next to the main game called Valverde.
Oh yeah, I like that. See, there you go. Like for me, I actually think yes, there will be some people maybe even listening to this go, no, just give me realistic stuff. But if it's done kept in the same tone as the game is being, would be built, but you could put that in, I think it would work. I would much rather give me that any day over here's some more Rainbow Six missions because of or a new Splinter Cell mission. I would rather have that. I genuinely would. A crossover that works, crossover that you've made fit into the game.
Yeah.
I think I definitely think that's an interesting one. What about, so if anyone here does play Grand Theft Auto, so obviously it's Christmas. So they are currently running their Christmas event. So the world is now full of snow. They've got the their version, is it the holiday hauler or whatever it's called, their Coca-Cola truck, basically. And they've put in like Die Hard mission and things like that into GTA Online. What do you think about seasonal crossovers? Like things that are actually to do with holidays and stuff, because the reason why I'm asking this is because I think we would all agree, and hopefully everyone who's listening or everyone who's interested in Ghost Recon would all agree, is that we're a bit sick of getting a game and it's not being supported for what feels like very long. We would all like a game, right, that's good, that gets supported for 3-4 years, right? That's what we want. So let's say that's what we get, just out of interest, that's what we're going to get. Now, obviously, that's going to depend on whether it sells or even if it exists. But let's say all of that, it does, right? What do you think do you think people would go for that kind of stuff? Because I do think you get to the point, I like playing Helldivers, right? It's just a fun game to jump in and out of. And I'm actually a little bit disappointed that they haven't given us any Christmas stuff in Helldivers. It's like, could have given us a Christmas armor or something, I would have quite appreciated it. So I think sometimes it's quite fun to add those elements. Do you think you can do that in this type of game?
Yes, I think so. And I think it would keep players excited for holidays.
How would you implement it so it didn't stray off to be Fortnite or GTA? How would you implement, say, like a Christmas theme?
Maybe. Well, I don't know about a Christmas theme, but maybe. There's tons of ways you could probably do it, but in the sense of Ubisoft not spending too much money on too many things, it could be as easy as, maybe temporarily, offering free gear that you would normally have to buy in the store, in the Ghost store, or maybe it could be a game parameter, or I'm sorry, a world parameter like that covers snow on the ground. It could be a variety of different things, but I think it is possible, and it would definitely be beneficial to the players. So players starts getting bored, the holidays coming, and then they start announcing like, hey, stick around for the holidays, we got a big surprise for you. And then boom, you get hit with some free gear, or you get hit with, something. And that would get players to, oh, I gotta hop in, on the 20th because there's new gear coming out. That kind of thing kind of keeps people playing throughout the holidays and throughout different, events as the years go on. So
Sandy, what do you think?
So I think a nice simple way to do it would maybe be regular updates through October up to like the Christmas period, where they slowly layer and like add in start adding in snow, not just to one part of the map, but the whole map, so that it feels like you've got a seasonal change coming up. And then as you're getting into November, December, they start adding Christmas lights and just little other things in the background that start showing you that it is Christmas. I don't think we need to have any in your face, we need to rescue Santa Claus missions. I just think a slow build up where it in the game world it is also winter, it is also coming up to Christmas would be enough.
I feel like that there's some strange thing that you don't want to tell us there. You don't want to rescue Santa Claus. What's wrong with it? Did you not get enough presents when you was a child, Sandy? Is there a thing there you've got something against?
I just
No, I get. Well, I do get what you mean. I know what you're saying. No, I don't want. I don't want that either. I don't want to see like, oh yeah, there's some reindeers that have been, taken by this local terrorist group. That kind of. I don't want to see that either. I think the weather is a key aspect to just making it feel like a bit like GTA Online. They've done the Die Hard mission. Yes, there's the truck thing. Yes, there's little Christmassy bits in there. But I think just by implementing snow into the world for a period of time where there wasn't before can make it suddenly feel would make it feel like a Christmas event. And obviously, I don't think people would want an Easter event or whatever, but they might want like a summer event, or something like that, or there's different types of events, or events
Halloween.
that have other Halloween. Yeah, I mean, Halloween could definitely work if you did it right. You could have a criminal faction that like to wear masks or something that are very Halloweeny. You don't even have to mention Halloween. You could just say that just release it near a Halloween and have a specific theme to it.
I'll give you two examples for Halloween that I think would work in a limited capacity. Dog Soldiers and the SCP franchise within a limited capacity for Halloween.
Dog Soldiers is so good. Yeah, exactly. I love dogs. So yeah, they could work. Yeah,
that is a limited Halloween event.
That could work if people are okay with us going down the route of like adding werewolves into a game. And that's, I think, once again, is the kind of thing I think where the community is kind of, some people will be like, no, do not want it. But as long as it's an event, I think that is added that is separate and doesn't have focus put on it over main story DLC, and it's just a little small event that has just been done. I think people are okay with that. I think it's when they go, oh, we've given you this, but there's no new DLC for a year. That's when people go, so you spent time making werewolves, but we could have had something that involved, other, tier 1 units and more story and more gritty. That, I think, is where the balance. If you want to give us both, people, I think, will go, okay, I'm fine with both because I don't have to play it if I don't want to. I think it's when you give us that, but don't give us the things that people actually want. I think that's where the problems get created. So we've been going on for a little while here, and obviously it's
When-
Christmas, so people will
When they
probably...
prioritise the wrong aspect first.
Yeah, exactly. It's hopefully everyone's having a good drink at the moment. Maybe whilst listening to this, or it's late at night and you've already had too many and you're currently nodding off listening to us. That could be that could definitely be a factor. But before we kind of finish, is there anything that anyone here feels that's really important that we haven't said about crossovers that you feel that the community especially would like to see or not see with a crossover? What do you think, Zimmy?
I've got one thing that's pretty huge. So in Terminator mode, it ended, and not a lot of people liked it until it was gone. And once it was gone, people became frustrated. I think that if they're going to do some type of crossover, they're going to implement a character from somewhere else, whether it's liked or not, they should at least, if it's going to be temporary, let us know immediately that it's temporary and when we should expect to see it removed from the game, or make them permanent. Because even if players don't play it a lot and they've already implemented it, people will still play it. New players will hop in and be like, oh, there's a Terminator mode? That's so cool. People still talk about it, even to this day. So I think at least if you let us know as soon as it's implemented that it's a limited, it's a limited feature in the game or world parameter, then people understand like, hey, we should probably enjoy it while it lasts versus removing it. I didn't even know it was going to be removed, and it was gone one day and everybody started asking questions. It was kind of a big deal. Communicate that with the community. I think that is the biggest key about.
That's a really, really important
You could just
point
communicate with the
just
community
raised.
in general.
Well, yeah, communicating in general just about what you're doing in the game. I mean, it goes back to the Tomb Raider event. Whether you liked it or you didn't like it, just forget about that for a second. But that was communicated by way of Twitter. That just one tweet on Twitter. Oh, it's live. That to me is crazy. Loads of people didn't see it like that, and loads of people only saw it when YouTubers like myself and others started making content on it, and were like, "Oh, that's a thing. That's live." Yeah, like, to me, that's insane. Why you would advertise it, but why put something into the actual main game on the front screen? They used to have, you have a menu on the front screen. Put this is now like that. To me, don't put it out like that. That's crazy. But yeah, that's a really good point, because it's really unfair that people, don't have an opportunity to play Predator or Terminator because obviously they've been removed. So I think when it goes in there, they should say this is for 2 years and 2 years only, right at the beginning, and say that we'll have this for 2 years, so people can understand how long they have to play it. What was you going to say, Sandy?
No, I was just going to say communicate in general, to be fair, but it's one thing Ubisoft have never been good at. I mean, a lot of people only found out about the Lara Croft mission because it was leaked on an update, effectively, as you know, because I was talking to you about it as it dropped on my game.
Exactly.
That's the only reason I knew it was there.
You were the first person I ever knew that had. I was already aware of it. I already knew about the event because of being in Delta Company, but you didn't know anything about it, and yet you got it in your game, and you sent me the screenshot, because I remember other people tried to claim credit for that screenshot, saying, "Oh no, that I'd found that," and I was like, "No, it was your screen, the one that you sent me," and so that was the one people were using. And so you just had a weird game that used to get loads of bits of customization stuff come up in the shop that no one else had, that you couldn't actually buy, but it was there, and it was like, where are you getting this stuff? What's going on with your game?
Yeah.
But
the Amber Rain missions, I had all the locations for the Amber Rain missions long before they came out.
That's right.
So
yeah.
if you're listening, if and when the next game comes out, can I have the same version where it's half broken? Because I quite like to see what's coming in advance.
Yeah, can I have that too? That would be really useful. Thank you. But anyway, yeah, look, we don't want to babble on too much, but it's been really nice having Zimmy here as well. And Zimmy is going to hopefully be joining us fairly regularly. Obviously, we've got between the three of us, actually, we've all got quite challenging schedules to get on at the same time. But we will do our best. But hopefully Zimmy is going to be along for some more of these with us. So yeah, you know, crossovers, let us know in the comments below. What do you think? What do you want from crossovers? What do you really not want to see? Tell us how you want them implemented, and you know, if you agree with what we're saying, not saying. This channel is all about the community, so let us know. We'll just sign off by saying, hope you have an amazing Christmas. Well, lots more to come from us, and Happy New Year. If we don't do a video before that, though, I do hope there will be one before that, but we'll see. Depends how drunk we get. But yeah, Merry Christmas, everyone. Take care, and we'll see you again on the next one. Bye-bye.